Well, hi Stampers, Jackie Bolhuis from Stampers, and I am back today with a Stamping Basics video, and today we're going to talk about coloring with markers. Now Stampin' Up! Carries two different kinds of markers, the regular Stampin' Right that we tend to just call markers, and then the Stampin' Blends. And we're going to take the mystery out of the difference, and I'm going to show you which is my personal preference and show you how each of them works so that you can decide which one you like best. So let's flip the camera down and get started. So let's talk markers. Now Stampin' Up! Carries two different types of markers. We have the regular Stampin' Right markers. These are what, when you just hear people talk about markers, they're talking about these. We've had them forever. They come in all of our colors, so they coordinate with every single ink pad, color, and cardstock we have. So it's just kind of the standard marker, so to speak. Now the other markers that we have are called Stampin' Blends, and these are new. They are an alcohol-based marker and they color beautifully. We don't have them in all the colors. I think we have 12 different colors. Hopefully we'll be getting more. Each color comes in a light and a dark. So here's our Old Olive. So we have an Old Olive Light and an Old Olive Dark. The same with Cherry Cobbler and all of the ones we carry. Now, a couple of things to remember about the differences. Since this is an alcohol-based marker, you have got to stamp your image with the Memento Black. Now, we talked a little bit about this in the Stamping Basics video about ink pads, so we're going to kind of just reiterate the fact because we're talking about markers, but you want to make sure you have the right pad so that that black does not smear. So with Stampin' Blends, it's the Memento pad. Now, with the markers, you need to use a permanent archival type ink. So with these, if you're going to color with them, you want to use the archival Stampin' pad, or the StazOn pad will work as well. So the two different types of markers, and they look totally different. Now personally, and this is just Jackie's opinion, I don't like these. I don't like to color with them, okay? There's something else you can do with them that I love to do with them, but I'm not a fan of coloring with markers. But I want to show you how to color with them, and so that you can determine for yourself what you like the best. So I've already pre-stamped this is just a piece of Whisper White. You want to make sure with either black, once you stamp it, that your ink is good and dry before you start, otherwise it's going to smear on you. So we've stamped with the archival black. And to color with markers, I mean, this is no different than any marker you have probably ever colored with, okay? So you just color in. You can't really do any shading with them. They are what they are. They're quite dark, nice and juicy. So there's our rose. Oh, I should tell you, we do have a brush tip, which is what I was using. They also have a very fine tip. So these are nice for writing. You know, they can either sign your cards with them or any type of writing you want because you have a nice fine tip. Not great for coloring unless you're just doing like little tiny dots in the center of a flower or something like that. I tend to color with that brush tip. It is pretty pointed. Real light hand, okay? Don't press. If you press hard, you're gonna mash that tip and not have that nice pointed tip that you see on mine. So be really gentle with them. Okay, so there we've done some coloring with marker. Like I said, not my favorite way to color. They're pretty dark and heavy. You can't really shade with them. You know, there's a few images I like to color with them, but just not a fan of it. So they also, like if you go out of the lines, it clearly looks like you went out of the lines, okay? You can't really get that watercolor look that I talk about a lot, which to me, a watercolor look, just let it flow. And if it goes out of the lines a little bit, that's okay, because that's part of the watercolor look. To me, markers, because they are so solid and dense, you really need to stay in the lines. And so, like I said, not my favorite way. However, I know a lot of people love to color with them. So if you do, please don't take it personally. This is just Jackie's opinion. So let's push those aside and let's talk about the Memento pad and the Stampin' Blends markers. Like I said, alcohol-based marker. Make sure you've stamped with Memento and let it dry good. Now, when you color with these, there's a lot of different ways to color, you know, kind of different schools of thought, dark to light, light to dark. You can also, if you are more of a artsy type person, you can get gorgeous, beautiful shading with these. I've done a couple other videos on the Stampin' Blends, and this video isn't so much to teach you, you know, all the like more in-depth ways to use them. I'm going to show you quick and easy coloring with them, which is 99.999% of what Jackie does. Quick and easy to make it simple and quick. But I want to really be able to let you see the comparison between the regular markers and the Stampin' blends. So when I use the blends, again, 2 points on them, but I almost always color with the smaller point. It's kind of a bullet tip on there. It's a hard surface. It's not as fine as the fine tip on the other markers, but it'll color really nice. So we're gonna just start, and we have the Cherry Cobbler Light, and I am a light to dark person. Some people go the other direction, dark to light, but you want to, I color with the light, and then we're gonna come in with the dark. And again, I'm not trying to be super artsy, so we're just adding a little bit of dark more down in the bottom, kind of define those lines. We'll come up here, add some dark, come back to the light, and blend those colors. I'm just going over what I did. Blend those colors out so you don't really get lines, and you're gonna get some different shading in there. And I'll go ahead and do this one. You wanna work in small surfaces. This might even be a smidgen too big of a surface. I should probably do about half the rows at one time, but fill it in good. And you wanna switch back and forth rapidly, okay? Because we want that ink to stay a little wet. So I'm basically just going over like the lines of the rows here to try to get some depth to it. Come back with the light. I'm going over what I did with the dark. You can layer these colors over and over, get them as dark or as light as, well, light obviously as you want. Make sure you keep the covers on these and snap them on. Hear that snap? They go on pretty hard. I press them down because that will keep them. But look at the difference, how this is both Cherry Cobbler, but you can see kind of the highlighted areas, some light and dark shading. I think you get a beautiful result coloring with these. There's one more thing with the blends, and that is the, what do they call this thing? Color lifter. So if you go out of the lines, you can kind of pick up some of that color. What I like to do is add some highlights. Like I'm just coming in the centers here and scribbling a little bit. It will lighten that ink a little bit to put some highlights in there as that dries. So let me just show you, these are completely colored. Now I did use garden green here instead of old olive, but look at the difference, and you know how we've got some shading and some highlighting in there. I think it's just a much more beautiful look. Maybe, let me color that leaf a little bit to show you how I did those. Again, I started with light, and I just took each one, I filled it in, I came back with the dark, and I just went over those lines, came back with the light, blended it out. So you don't get lines, okay? That's the beauty of these. You don't get like marker lines, okay? Because they blend right out, and you switch back and forth and blend them. I'll just do, not gonna color the whole flower, but just to show you how we can get some nice shading in there to really give those images some dimension. So let's cover those good and come back. And again, so here's the two different ones that I colored. So I want to just go ahead and make a card for you with them. This would be kind of boring if all I did was color on that. So the stamps that I was using was from the Petal palette. This is what our stamp set looks like. I will list the link to the blog post in the video description, and the blog post will list all of the supplies I've used. So if you need to place an order, if you would like to get these supplies, they are in the Occasions catalog. We don't know if they'll be available after May. So beautiful set. I have used this a lot. But anyhow, here are the coordinating dies with it. So this one is going to cut out our flowers, if we can, goodness, that way. There we go. Find the right way to put it. So I'm going to just go ahead and run this through the Big Shot. There we go. And for our card, oops, I got a little piece of washi tape. Sometimes I use washi tape when I run stuff through the Big Shot to hold it exactly in place where I want it. So I have a layer here of Whisper White, and I've already run this one through the Big Shot using the I think they're called petal pairs embossing folders. Comes in a little set of 2. We've got a beautiful floral image and then these leaves. And so I've done that part already, and we're gonna adhere it to my card base. Now, for the card base, I am using the Whisper White Thick. Okay, whenever I use a card base that's white versus colored, I like the thick. It feels more like the colored cardstock. Actually, it's even a little thicker than the colored cardstock. But I think our Whisper White it's just a little flimsy to use it for a base. So if I don't have a lot of layers or a lot of other stuff, I always grab the thick. Our Tombow liquid adhesive, my favorite adhesive. If you missed my video on basics having to do with adhesive, make sure you go back and find that, because I talk about all the different adhesives and tips for using them. But I like it because we've got all this texture going here, so we need something to really hold that down. Now, I've done a few parts and pieces already for you guys, because the idea was more to teach you about your different ways to color. So we have a branch, which we cut out with a framelit. That's part of this coordinating set. I have the words thank you. And again, look at the nice little banner cutout that comes with this one. So Scotch tape, believe it or not, is a standard adhesive in my stamp room. We're gonna just go ahead and take this branch, and I'm gonna tape it down right there. I'm gonna cover that up so we won't even see it. Then we got Stampin' Crack. Oh, as I flip this over, I can show you Stampin' blends, because of them being an alcohol-based marker, they do bleed through, and you can see the back side of it like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put 3 dimensionals, our little Stampin' Crack there. Put another one on the back of the thank you. Now you will notice when I cut this one out, I did cut it out way over to the right, and I need to just grab my scissors. There we go. Because of the way we're going to do that, I'm just going to snip that end off. So we'll peel off our dimensional from the back of there. We'll peel off our dimensionals from this one. And I am going to just stick our flower. We're going to kind of do this at the same time so I know it all goes together how I want. We're going to put our flower there. See how it hides our Scotch tape? We're going to stick our little thank you in there. So there is our quick and easy card. Why don't we go ahead and add a little baker's twine bow. I've already tied that, and we will use a dimensional. Again, I talk about all these different adhesives in the adhesive video. I also show you how to make this little bow, so make sure you check that one out. And we'll just stick that right down there. And there is our thank you card. Now you can finish it off. I've done this one already. On the inside, I stamped a couple of the branches. That's part of the same stamp set, along with Life is So Much Better With You in it. So there is our quick and easy thank you card, but it also gives you a good idea of the differences between stamping with regular Stampin' Write markers versus Stampin' blends. So definitely the blends are my favorite. So what do you think? Which do you like better? The look of the Stampin' Writes or the look of the Stampin' blends? You decide what's best for you. Now, if you have any questions about these markers or anything else having to do with Stampin' Up, make sure to get a hold of me. I have been a Stampin' Up demonstrator for over 23 years now, and my passion is teaching you to make stamping simple. And that's why I've been working on this series of Stamping Basics, to make sure that you understand what's truly the basics and to help you be able to make quick and easy cards that still are gorgeous and beautiful, and your friends and family will love getting them from you. So if you are looking for a Stampin' Up demonstrator, I would be honored to be that person. Give me a call, message me, email me, and let me know what I can do to help you, if you need catalogs or anything I can do for you. If you need to place a Stampin' Up order, I would totally appreciate you guys selecting me as your Stampin' Up demonstrator. That's what allows me to be able to bring you all of these videos totally for free and to help you make stamping simple. So again, I look forward to sharing again with you next week in another Stampin' Basics video, where we're going to talk about 2 other ways of coloring. So have a stamp happy day.